Hello and welcome, Mark McNichol today. And I only connected with Mark a few days ago. This is a bit mental, just crazy. Just, you know, when you see something, you go, I'm going to do that right now. Mm-hmm. And then we just agreed to meet up the day. And this is the first guest podcast of 2024 of mine. So thanks very much, Mark. Very kind.
Thanks for asking me.
So, Mark, I discovered him through a wee video on TikTok where he was sitting outside Berlin jail and...
Just released.
He wasn't just released. I mean, it would be alright if you were. I've had somebody who's been in Berlin, you might even know him, Jordan Robertson, Hawaii Five-0. He was right into the radio station. He was heavily involved with Berlinese radio. Right. So there you go. But anyway, we digress already. We're only flaming 50 seconds in.
Interrupting you.
So, no, it's fine. Mark does this work with prisoners, among loads of other people, which you can tell us about, but it's obviously part of the justice rehab programme, right? Although nowhere actually specifically says that on any of your descriptions, but it has to be because that's what you're going in, you know, to work with. And he does a therapy called drama therapy. Well, it's like drama therapy. You don't like it labelled.
Well, you know the reason it's called anonymous drama. And the reason that I don't call it drama therapy is because it varies internationally. When it comes to drama therapy, it varies depending what country you're in. But in Scotland and the UK, I'm pretty sure that in order to use the term drama therapy, you need to have a master's degree in drama therapy.
Oh, right, okay.
Right? So, and there's only one university in Scotland, Queen Margaret, East Coast. Does it? I met them, had a chat with them about our work and their work, etc. They were lovely, very supportive, but at the end of the day, what they do is different. You know, drama therapy is different from what we do. So that's why I describe it as being like drama therapy for people who usually don't have any interest in drama or therapy. Right.
And it was actually I'm assuming it's a charitable organisation, Creative
Change Collective.
Aye.
Started 2014.
Scotland. Did you set that up?
No, I didn't set it up. Started 2014. Back then it was called Street Coins. So it's been through a rebrand 2 or 3 years ago. And I did not actually get involved until I think maybe 2016, so a couple of years.
So was that Berlin video that I saw on their page?
Yes.
That then made me find you. It's so easy to find people when you get hooked on a topic or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it just opened a massive can of worms in a good way, because I then discovered that Mark is actually a writer, producer in film, and you've written books, and you've currently got a film. I want to get all this on.
Yep.
He's currently got a film on Amazon, Dreaded Light, which is, I've only got 27 minutes left to watch. It's an hour and a half. And I'm loving it. I can't wait to go back and watch the rest. If you're into the whole spiritual...
Well, it's a difficult one to describe because some people describe it as a horror, and other people...
There are scary bits. I'll admit, Mark, I was going, oh, this isn't going to be a wee bit scary. But not fear enough not to watch it, and because I'm right into the whole spiritual thing.
Mediums.
Right, that kept me hooked.
See, from speaking to audiences, it's split 50-50. 50% call it a horror, 50% call it a thriller.
But it's very interesting regardless. So I have to say, if you've got Amazon Prime, you'll get access to it anyway. You can watch it.
And leave us a review. Leave us a review as well. Reviews, you know, honest reviews are very important because the algorithms, the more reviews you get, the higher up the listings and stuff you get bumped, you know.
But that is just a wee side of what we're really here to talk about, because then I discovered that you've actually got your own story to tell, so much that I found out in a couple of days.
Everybody's got a story.
But connected to what you do.
Yeah.
So you're doing the whole thing with, you call it trying to achieve more positive outcomes, which I love because, you know, I'm a great believer in that. I am a believer in, you know, rehabilitation for everybody. I do think that people deserve that. And in terms of financial stability, it needs to be done for the country to run a good justice system, I think, in my opinion.
Yep.
Anyway, right, so getting into this, and we're going straight for the
Straight in.
story.
Okay.
Aye. So your brother Jason died of a heroin overdose.
Yes.
That's all I know, Mark. You need to tell us the rest.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because Jason's a big part of the reason why I'm so focused and obsessed and motivated by this work. Growing up, you know, in terms of my lived experience, growing up, my mother and father were both alcoholics. It killed my father, and my mother, thank God, has been sober for 25 years.
Are you born and bred Glasgow?
Yes.
This area?
Priest Hill.
Right.
Do you know Glasgow?
No, not really, no.
So kind of Priest Hill.
Right.
So I was born Priest Hill, mother and father both alcoholics, problematic childhood, you know, because my mum and dad split up, but my mum drank all the way through my childhood.
Was there just the two of yous?
Me and Jason.
Uh-huh.
So three of us, me, Jason, mum.
Aye.
Me, Jason, mum, and mum's drinking was definitely something that was problematic. And we've got a good relationship now, me and my mum, because she's sober, and she's been sober for 25 years, and, you know, she's an amazing example of people being able to turn their lives around.
Did she go to meetings and stuff?
She started off, she did start off, I can't remember, for a few years she went to meetings, and then she decided that she was going to stop going to meetings. And I can't remember the exact reason why. I think it may have.
But she's been fine.
Yeah, 25 years
Which
sober.
is the most important
Which is the
thing.
most important thing. But me and Jason obviously, you know, had challenges, and it was tough because of mum's drinking, and then it's almost like me. There's 4 years between us. My wee brother, he's my wee brother, and it's almost like we're going through life. And I don't remember at which point, but there was a fork in the road at some point, and he took that fork and I took that fork, and you know his direction was criminality and heavy drugs, and my direction was no criminality, although I did move in some dodgy circles. I personally was never involved in any criminality really, but I was into the what I would describe as being kind of recreational type drugs. But through my 20s, I was aware of the fact that it was potentially becoming a problem, and I knocked it in the head actually when I was 27. So that
was Jason already caught up in it all by then?
Yeah. I mean, Jason was in and out of prison.
I mean, I know you say you don't remember, but do you remember the first time you thought to yourself, this isn't good for him? Like, was it high school? Was it after high school?
See, when I have these conversations, being totally honest, probably it's not that I don't remember. I remember everything, but probably the only thing that makes me a wee bit hesitant is because of the fact my mum is still alive, and she'll probably see this.
Okay, right.
You know what I mean?
Okay, that's fine.
So see, my mum, she beats herself up.
Right. Okay.
And I think it's an interesting point because see, people with addictions who have children who carry this guilt with them, which causes them all sorts of problems.
It is a whole thing as well, though.
Yeah.
Anything happens to you, it's just natural that you take the blame for it. You think that it's all your fault.
So
and society
I don't think she should blame herself.
I agree.
I don't think that she should blame herself for the way Jason went, because I didn't go that way, and I had the same mum. You know, nature, nurture, fascinating. Some people go that way, some people go that way. You know. Right.
Okay. So we'll I'll forget that question.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it was. I mean, at the end of the day, like me and my mum don't speak about it often because it is problematic for her. But I don't think that she would be upset with me for me to basically say
you want
that.
to protect her.
I want, you know, I don't want to cause her any unnecessary distress.
And that's totally fine.
You know?
Right. So going back to the story then of you went one way, he went the other. you're in your you're talking about early 20s.
I'm visiting him in prison. You know, I mean, Greenock, Berlin, it started off with Polmont, Greenock, Berlin, Edinburgh, various prisons. I'm visiting him because of his criminality. And then at some point, can't remember exactly when, but at some point he became a heroin addict.
So his criminality wasn't because of that addiction?
I suppose it's probably all interlinked, right. You know, it's probably all interlinked. Jason was a troubled chap, you know, and he was also, you know, he was violent, and a lot of his crimes were violence related. So in terms of, that's the thing. See the circles that I moved in, the people who were involved in criminality were doing it for money. It was, you know, they were motivated by money, and the prisons are full of people who obviously have different reasons for being there. Some of them are career criminals, some of them shouldn't be there, some of them are there by accident, can't even remember what got them in, etc. But with Jason, it was his temper. You know, it was his violent tendencies that got him into jail. If it'd been me, if I'd went to jail, I think I would have been looking to rob a bank or something, or, you know, something.
I always say that as well. Yeah, if I'm going to jail, I'm doing it in style.
I'm going to go, you know, I'm going to try and make some money. You know,
shouldn't joke about it, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like it need to be something really good for you know, to put yourself at risk. But I always think as well, we're all only one bad decision away from something like that happening, and it's scary. It can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter who your mum is or what family you came from, whatever. It can happen to any of us. And the other thing is, every single person in the system was birthed by somebody. You know, so anyway, right. So he became a heroin addict. You don't really know exactly when that happened either. What age would that be then? About the 27 mark?
Well, I mean, I stopped doing drugs when I was 27. So I was like, okay. I mean, I was doing coke, ecstasy, hash, acid, speed. I mean, you know, stuff that I would back then have described as recreational. You know what I mean? But the circles that I moved in at that time, there was definitely this thing about we look down on heroin users.
Society does my brain in that's the automatic go-to belief and opinion, and really it's like that safe room. We got that in the end, didn't we? The glass, because I saw you talking about that as well. We're digressing, but it is still there. So the safe room is, because I know a girl who worked with the Simon community. I know quite a lot about that as well, and how they do support addicts in Glasgow and the street work and whatever. And again, I struggle to get some people to come and talk about that because it is so stigmatised, and people don't want to be. It's even stigmatised in social work. The people that don't work in that area have an opinion for the people that do.
Yeah, me and my friends, it was like coke was cool, pills was cool, all that stuff was cool, but heroin wasn't cool.
Aye.
So if you were doing heroin, you weren't hanging about with us. Thankfully. Because there's other circles. And by the way, the other interesting thing is you look at rock stars and pop stars. For some reason it's cool. Heroin's cool in the music industry, in the film industry, at that level.
I know, and look at Marty Pello. I'd love to know his story. I'd love to know how he rehabilitated from being a heroin addict, because it's extremely difficult. I mean, I know he obviously had the money to throw at therapy, but I'd still love to know the actual story, because it would give surely a bit of hope to people that are on the
that journey.
Aye, because there are people on that journey as well. Anyway, sorry, right, getting back, so he became a heroin addict.
And then me and him had, like all my family members, we all had a difficult relationship with Jason, you know. Him stealing money off us and, you know, basically just being an absolute nightmare. So many times he bumped me in one way or another. I'm trying to help him, I'm trying to get him set up somewhere, set up with a flat or set up with a job and stuff, and I'm getting bumped, and he's stealing stuff out our houses, you know, me, my mum, aunties, etc. So it was a bad time, and then he, you know, he's on his journey and he died of a heroin overdose. So, you know, in and out of prison, heroin. So I don't consider myself to be a kind of, obviously I'm not a frontline recovery worker. I don't have any qualifications or expertise when it comes to recovery other than my lived experience, the time that I spent with my mum, my dad and Jason. So living with people with addictions is and seeing the damage and carnage that it causes is a big factor in me being, you know, focused and obsessed
and contributing to you're contributing to the
and trying to help, you know.
And these are people like you. All of us, as you say, have a story. We've all got something to contribute when it comes to that, because lived experience, you can't buy that. You can't go to university and learn that. It's you know, very unique and shouldn't ever be, you know, it's so important. It should never be something that's, oh, I'm just this or I'm just that. It's so important in these recovery situations.
But see the connection between lived experience and the work. It's interesting because, you know, I've got a journey. So see, as a writer, director, producer, novels, stage plays, film. I sometimes think of that as my day job, you know, so I have my journey in terms of getting into that quite late, you know, into that quite late. So I worked in kind of IT and telecoms.
Oh, did you?
Sales and marketing, and writing was a hobby.
So how long ago was it you lost your brother?
Probably I think it was about 12, 13 years ago.
At what age was he?
He would have been late, maybe mid-30s. I think he would have been maybe mid-30s because he'd be about, I think he'd be about 45, 46 just now. I'm shit with numbers.
And it was an overdose?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one when we talk about dreaded light and mediums and stuff like that, because...
Is that why you went to a medium, to try and get more?
No. I mean,
because we're going to come to that.
I think the reason I started going to mediums was as research for the film. You know, because obviously 2 of the characters in the film are mediums. So I need to...
So you never went to a medium for your own personal, part of your own healing, but you then got into it?
Well, but it's interesting because obviously Dreaded Light is inspired by the story of my mother. When I was a teenager, she worked in a chippy in Thornley Bank, and there was a medium. I think the medium might have been a new delivery driver or something like that, but she didn't know the medium, and the medium didn't know her. The medium said to her, "By the way, this is what I do, do you mind if I..." And she was like, "Okay." And the medium said, "I've got a message from your oldest." And my mum was like, "That's not possible because my oldest is still with us." Me. And he said to her, "No, Angela's your oldest." Now what he had no way of knowing was the year before I was born, my mum had a baby that didn't make it. And the baby was called Angela. And this complete stranger is basically saying to my mum, "No, Angela's your oldest." And he told her a few things, but the only one that I remember was relating to me. He said, Angela's asking you to pass a message on to Mark, right? And he knew all her names. Angela wants Mark to know that he's got a big sister in the spirit world, and she's always with him. She's his guardian angel, and she's always watching over him. And that was when I was like 15. So from the age of 15, that's in the back of my head, and I'm thinking it's a real thing. But I never, for some reason, I never had the urge or the curiosity to actually go and investigate and find out more until the decision was made that Dreaded Light was being made. And then I was like, right, okay.
So what made you, what took that long for that story happening with your mum at the chippy to making the film?
Well,
because when did you make the film? Last year?
Well, the film would have been made, what's this, 2024? So it was probably 22. I think the film was made 22. What
made you, after all that time, go down that route with that story?
So when I'm a teenager, I'm not making films. You know, I'm running a bit like a band pot. You know, I mean, I'm just daft teenager. And then when I was 17, I started on the door of a nightclub called the Cotton Club, way back, just off Sauchiehall Street. It's not there anymore. It became the CCA. It used to be above what was then the Third Eye Centre. My boss sold the club to the Third Eye Centre, which became the CCA. But I worked there for a long time, maybe 10 years. So that was where my, relationship with alcohol and drugs became problematic. Working on the door, going partying after work at 3, 4 in the morning, getting involved in a scene that was quite, there was a lot of criminality and drug taking, etc. So like 17 to 27, I've got that journey. I knock it in the head. I still have a drink, but I knock the drugs in the head when I'm 27, and my focus is making money. And I'm in IT, sales and marketing, telecom, still not a writer. And then probably 37, so 27 to 37, IT. And then at the age of 37, I step off the treadmill, and I'm like, I'm going to become a writer when I'm 37. So I started my journey in terms of writing, directing, producing at the age of 37, which is why I always say to people, see when one of our family came into the house last night, I think he's like 14 or 15 or something, my missus' cousin, and he's prelims, exams, fucking what am I going to do and all that. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I literally did not figure out, because I knew I was unhappy in IT and telecoms between the age of 27 to 37. I knew I wasn't meant to be doing that. So at the age of 37, I stepped into my calling.
How did you know it was your calling? Because that is quite a massive difference for IT. How did you think, I want to be a writer?
Well,
did you know somebody? Were you involved?
For as long as I can remember, I used to every now and then
make up stories.
Short stories. I used to write short stories, and I remember when I was working in the door, I was maybe like 18 or 19, I can't remember exactly what age, but one of the bar staff was at Glasgow Uni doing undergrad, and she had a dissertation, and we used to sit about after work having a drink after our shift, and there was a bit of carry on, and I said to her, oh, students, you've all got it easy, it's a piece of piss, etc. And I was like, I'll do your dissertation. She's like, right, well, smart ass, do my dissertation. And it was something like, to what extent does Corneille use love and duty for dramatic effect in his 16th century play El Cid or something like that? I can't remember the exact question, but I done it, and I got a B+. This thing was always there in the background. See, I was a reader. I loved reading, and when I read, there was this thing of appreciation for good literature. Like George Orwell, for example, my favourite dead writer. Read all George Orwell's books, and there was this thing of appreciation, but there was also this sense of I should be doing that while I was reading books. I should be writing. Right. But circumstances. I'm engaged, I'm living in London, I'm working in IT, outgoings, spending a fortune, can't afford to write. Now, stepping off the treadmill at the age of 37, looking back on it, people think, wow, what an amazing thing, what a brave thing, which is total bullshit, because I can't take any credit for it. The credit goes to my fiance, because we split up. So she was the reason I was in London, and we were engaged, and my whole life, as far as I was concerned, my whole life was mapped out for me. And then we split up, and it was like I had no reason to be in London anymore, because she was the reason that I was in London. And I knew immediately. I was like, this.
So that was your change.
This is the universe giving me a blank page, an opportunity. I either take it or I don't take it. I could basically find a new girlfriend and continue on the treadmill, or I can just step off the treadmill, move back home to Glasgow, keep my overheads to a minimum and become a professional writer, which is what I did at the age of 37. So in terms of the reason why Dreaded Light didn't happen, is because then I didn't start with film. I started with novels. So Coconut Badger, the novel, was the very first thing that I wrote. And then I made the decision that I wasn't going to, after I'd kind of, you know, done some novels, I was like, okay, what's next? And in my heart, I wanted it to be television or film. But I'd read somewhere that quite a lot of television and film writers actually get into television and film through theatre as a kind of back door. Now, I had no relationship with the theatre. This is another kind of interesting thing. At the age of 37, I'd never been to the theatre. Like, I had no...
Living in London and you hadn't been to the theatre. How did you manage that?
Just, well, actually, you know what? See musicals. Obviously, that's a genre of theatre. So let's say if I'm living in London and friends or family come down to visit me and they want to go to see a show, yeah, I'll go and see a show with them. But I don't class that as...
Oh, really?
That's just a different genre. When I talk about theatre, I talk about, you know, like, if you go to something at the Tron, or the Citizens, or Tramway, or the...
or even the festival, like you've
Edinburgh
said,
Festival, or National Theatre of Scotland, etc. To me, that's a different genre of theatre. I'd never been to anything like that.
Right, okay.
And then at the age of 37, I decided that I was going to write my first stage play. So, you know, when I was writing my first novel, all I did was read novels. So when I wrote my first stage play, all I did was went to see as much theatre as possible.
So you've been successful.
Well, define success. How would you define success?
Well, you've had a show at the festival.
I mean, I've had multiple festivals. I think I've done 2 or 3 festivals. Well, yeah, I mean, I consider myself to be successful because see how I define
that's it.
No, but this is has been a problematic area for me historically because especially when you look at television, film, novels, success, you know, in literature you could define success as getting close to a Booker Prize, right? In theatre you could define it as getting close to a Tony or an Olivier or a Fringe First Award. In television, BAFTA. In film, in television and film, BAFTA, Oscar, etc. And financial, telephone number, success. So on my journey through novels and stage plays and television and film type journey, I've had to work with that in terms of my relationship with success. And I think I've managed to get to a good place, which is how I now define success is it a completed project that I'm proud to put my name on and be associated with? Coconut Badger, for example, the novel. I mean, it was the first thing I wrote. It is what it is. If I wrote it now, it would be a different thing. But am I proud of that work? Yeah, I'm proud of everything. See my body of work, writing, directing, producing, all the way through every single project. I'm proud to have helped to get it over the line and put my name on it. Am I, you know, financially independent in a strong position financially? The answer would be no. And I think part of that is because of this work. Because now again, that feels a bit like I'm making excuses, but like when I get into this work 7 or 8 years ago, you know, I had various projects that were in the pipeline. I had an agent. You know, there was a bit of kind of stuff going on in terms of television and film. I'd spent 3 months in Hollywood after I did a master's degree in writing for screen, and things were definitely moving in that direction. But I was invited by this charity to Shotts Prison.
Really? Is that how
That's
you got
when
on?
it changed for me.
So you didn't go looking for this work, working with the prison?
I didn't even know it existed.
No, neither did I.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
I mean, I do know that they have rehab programs, but I didn't know they did what you did.
No, I didn't
there's
even
so
know.
much of that, Mark, that we
Yeah.
don't know, and that irritates the life out of me. It
Yeah.
irritates the life out of me that society cut about with their heads down, and I'm not interested in addicts or prisoner rehab or anything like that, and I've got all this stigma because they're just bad people and whatever, and it's
that's
fucking
naive.
so
That's
frustrating because it's
Because they're coming out.
life. Aye,
They're coming out.
it exists. You can't just ignore it. And
We're not in
it'll go
America.
away.
In America, they don't let them out. But in this country, we let them out. So who do you want? Who do you want getting let out? Do you want somebody getting let out like a rabid dog, you know, who's going to come into contact with you and your family? Or do you want somebody letting out, you know, who has got a chance at contributing to society? But obviously, I had lived experience of visiting my brother in prison. So I had experience of prisons as a visitor. But when street cones, as they were known then, so it was actually a friend of mine, Adam Robertson, who is an actor, well established.
Yeah, he's in your film.
He's in the film.
What has he been in? Because I told
he's been
he's
in
in
loads.
Casualty. Or
He's been
something.
in
I
loads.
recognise
Yeah,
him. I don't watch
Casualty.
a lot of telly, but I recognised him
Yeah,
straight away.
River City.
Right.
I think he played Dr. Dan in River City. Third Star, a film with, I think Third Star was Benedict Cumberbatch's kind of breakthrough film.
So that was how you got him for your film, because he's your pal.
Yeah, so basically he invited me to Shotts Prison.
So he was involved?
He was involved before me. It was him who introduced me. And he invited me along to work with a group of kind of maybe 10 inmates on this community arts theatre type project.
And he was already in there as part of the prisoner rehab.
He was in there from the charity, basically.
So the creative charity was already in there.
I mean, Street Cones as it was known then.
Aye.
It's an interesting one because, like, see the idea of going into prisons with a kind of theatre, arts type programme. There's nothing original about that. No, that's not me diminishing it. It's very important. It's great work. But it's been done for hundreds of years internationally. You know, many countries in the world send in playwrights and actors and directors into their prisons to engage with the people inside prison.
People do it for research purposes, for creating film. Anyway.
Yeah, there's loads.
As well.
You know, there's loads of it. So basically, I come from a mainstream background where I'm writing, directing, producing. I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm loving it. And I go into Shotts Prison in 2016 and I work on this kind of project with Adam and another actor, Neil Leeper. And I work on this project and I'm like, wow, you know? Like, I see after 12, 16 weeks, we started with a blank page and we supported the inmates on, they kind of wrote their own piece of work and they performed that piece of work for their fellow inmates. In the visiting area, there was like 200 inmates.
And was it received well? What was it like? How did you get them on board? Because you're getting into an environment that I would imagine is very, you know, masculine. Not to, you know.
Yeah.
It's just that I think I'm speaking from what I believe exists out there with the belief of drama, you know. And I think that's probably changed a bit over the years. But a group of men.
Well, you know what? I mean, it wasn't at the end of the day, we're looking for 10 participants, and when we go into prisons, we put posters up and flyers.
And you got that, they came forward.
Some people are not going to do it. Some people it's not for them, which is fine, you know, but it's same with anything, you know. So some people come forward, they do it, and I worked on that first project, and they performed for their fellow inmates in the afternoon, and then in the evening they did a smaller performance for friends and family and VIPs.
Was there any rule in terms of category of prisoner that could get involved, or was it open to everybody?
No sex offenders.
All right, okay. Was that your...
That wasn't me. In fact, actually, the governor at the time, Jacqueline Clinton, and the head of offender outcomes, Colin Brodie, came to us and asked us if we would do a separate performance for the sex offenders, and they, you know, our participants shut it down very quickly. They wouldn't do it. So
Right.
so it meant that they didn't have any access to either participating or the audience in the prison. But the experience for me was, I'm going into a maximum security environment. It's the only maximum security prison in Scotland. Pretty much everybody in there is doing long sentences, 25, 20, 30 years, etc.
Did you have any fear or not because you were used to it?
First time I went in, I was a bit, nervous. I was a bit nervous because you get like a panic button that you need to wear.
And you're not allowed to wear your watch or take any of your personal belongings
no
in.
personal belongings in. So you get a panic button because there's no staff in the room with you. I do remember actually there was one particular day when, so as part of the process, I'm working with two actors and I'm the playwright and we're working on the script and you've got some of the guys are like putting forward material for the script, and there was one guy who put forward some material and I cut it because you've got to, because you can't use everything, so you need to cut stuff, etc. And he said that he was going to take me hostage. He had some tape. He was going to tape me up. He was going to tape me up and he was going to take me hostage if I didn't put his thing in.
So what do you do in that situation?
Well, you hope he's joking. You know what I mean? You hope he's joking, and fortunately for me, he was.
Right, so you did. Did get to cut it.
Yeah.
Right.
He was
Do
joking.
you know anything about the prisoners, the offenders?
Well,
do you know any?
Especially because Shots, mostly everybody in Shots is high profile. Because you don't get sent away for 25 years without being high profile.
You were saying we've only got one maximum security prison. Is it Shots?
Yeah.
I thought it was Berlini.
No.
But anyway,
Berlini,
Shots,
it's
right.
really interesting. See, when you do this work, you get a sense of the different vibes. So, for example, Berlini, chaotic because of the turnover of prisoners. Because they're in and out. It's like a revolving door. You get guys in there for a week, a weekend. It's just like constantly. Whereas Shots, because it's long term, actually Shots is a lot more tranquil, a lot more stable. They self-police a lot more, because see, when you're doing 20, 25 years, you don't want any fucking about. You don't want anybody coming in and messing with the equilibrium of the place, you know what I mean? You want everything nice and cool, nice and chilled. They do have situations when it goes, but they have less situations than somewhere like Berlini, because these guys, if you're doing that amount of time, then you need to be in a certain mental space with a certain...
I mean, that is your home.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. Shots is
I think it's much more your home than Berlini.
Aye.
But then again, there's lifers in Berlini as well.
I know. That makes sense now, though. That's kind of fallen into place for me, because I did wonder why Berlini was always labelled this crazy place. It does have that reputation for people that have never even been near the place.
More volatile.
Aye.
I think it's more volatile just because of the turnover. But the Shots Prison Project was life-changing for me, because I came from that mainstream background. Novels, theatre, television and film. And how do you define success? But at that time, if I was to look at my body of work and then I look at this project, and I'm like, you go into a maximum security prison, which you would expect to be the bleakest of bleak environments, and you work with these inmates on a piece of theatre, and you discover the opposite is the case. These guys are full of love and compassion and talent and sensitivity, and also this work is life-changing or can have a huge impact on them. And I'm thinking to myself, but I'm looking at my body of work and I'm like, take Dreaded Light as an example. Is it going to change anybody's life? Like, you're going to watch Dreaded Light, is it going to change your life?
No, but see, then I get pure defending you really on that, because people consume loads and loads of stuff on screens, whether it's social media, whether it's Netflix, Amazon, and I would also say people are coming away from mainstream TV, BBC, ITV and whatever, and going to this stuff because it's so much more closer to reality, dare I say it? I think it is. And it's again, I don't think this is really recognised as much as it should be, but it's another form of therapy. It's another form of escape. So whilst you might sit there and say that this film that I made won't directly change your life.
Might. I mean, it might.
But overall...
maybe it's just because... So, for example, see if I'm working on... See this work. Like, we're in the room with the people.
Aye, it's a different
We're
type
in the
of
room with the
therapy.
people and they're like, oh my God. And we get the feedback because we do evaluations for every group.
You get much more of a feeling of
yeah.
satisfaction and achievement
That's what-
doing the prison work. I get that.
And that's why...
But don't underestimate the
yeah.
power of a film or, you know, creating that content for somebody's
In the
life.
mainstream.
Aye.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. The mainstream work that I do is still important to me. In fact, I want to go back to it. You know, it wouldn't be fair to say that I put my mainstream career on hold for this kind of drama therapy type work.
You just do it
because I
altogether.
still made Ready Light.
Aye.
You know,
And
that was only 2 years ago, so I still do keep my toe in the water type thing, you know. And I tell you what would be interesting. See if Steven Spielberg phones me tonight and says, see that work, you need to step away from that work for the next 12 months because I've got a project for you. You know, it's life-changing money. That would be an interesting conversation. How important is this work to me?
Aye.
Would I be able to knock Steven Spielberg back?
Yeah, and you do still need to provide.
You still need to pay the bills.
Aye.
But then again, so I started as delivery team. So I was one of the delivery team. And then I was like, wow, this is amazing. It became a pure focus and obsession. I started to study the work. I was like, what is... Because I know what theatre is and I know the power of theatre because theatre changed my life in a way that screen didn't. So I know and I understand that. But in terms of these participants, I was like, okay, so I started to go on my journey of looking at psychodrama and looking at drama therapy and looking at the arts and theatre and creativity as an explicit form of therapeutic intervention type thing. And that's where I've been for the last 7 or 8 years, focused on developing anonymous drama in such a way that we can go into a recovery environment. So most of our work is residential rehabs, community rehabs in the recovery space. And then on the justice space, it's prisons or community sentences. So we can go in and we can use our work to have everything I do is aimed at 2 things. Number 1, the alcohol, drug, death rate in Scotland and the UK. Number 2, offending and reoffending rates. So that's why I get up in the morning, ultimately, is to impact those 2 numbers. You know, stop people dying, like Jason, and stop people either, being convicted or reconvicted. Those are the 2 biggest numbers in my life in terms of what I'm trying to impact. So the work has been developed over the last 7 or 8 years, tweaked and fine-tuned round about these 2-hour sessions and participants in either a justice space or a recovery space stepping inside the session, because we're not a drama group. We're not looking for people who are interested in acting or...
No, because I'm going to come to that as well, which is quite interesting.
We're about the therapeutic intervention. We're about supporting your mental health, supporting your emotional well-being, using the development of characters and monologues and sketches and spoken word in this very unique environment with the anonymity protocols applied in such a way that people are able to kind of do some self-awareness type work and try and get a wee bit more of an understanding as to, what's going on, why my relationship with addiction, my offending, etc. Asking the questions about why we are where we are.
Do you work in that every day?
Me?
In these environments, although your day job is classed as the writing, directing, producing.
I work in this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because I'm the first patient. I need to work on myself, and so do you. We all do. There's no hierarchy. This is another thing I say to participants, we're not coming in here with answers. you know. What we're doing is we're coming in with a toolbox. We've got a toolbox here, and we can empty the toolbox and we can start to kind of do some of the techniques and exercises and breathing and mindfulness and improvisations and hot seats and, you know, all these different kind of techniques. We can all use them to try and figure out what the fuck is going on inside our heads. And I include myself in that as well. Because there is a conversation going on inside my head 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But that concept is something that's alien to most people. So most of the participants that we work with, if you talk about negative and positive, for example, if you talk about negative chit-chat and positive chit-chat, and the idea, the notion of that going on inside their head, and ultimately there being a conversation about your relationship with alcohol and drugs, or there being a conversation about your relationship with criminality, etc. To even introduce that as a concept is something that most of our participants have got fucking zero clue what you're talking about. So that on its own is...
There's so many questions I've got. Do you do this as part of your therapy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you deliver those lectures? Like everything you've just said to me there, do you do that? You're a natural speaker. I suppose you know this anyway, it's why you do it. So I could see, I can visualise, you know, people that you're delivering that to being extremely engaged in it because of the way that you're delivering it. When it comes to the actual performing, right, I want to talk about that because what I understood from that, and I love this, that anonymous thing, that anonymity is whereby what you actually do is recreate scenes from their life.
No. No, the anonymity bit is what makes our programme unique.
Right, explain that to me then,
so
because I've misunderstood that.
To my knowledge, there is no other organisation internationally doing what we're doing with anonymity. And that's one of the reasons why Glasgow University came in and did the impact study on the anonymity bit. So let me... the best way to explain it would be, see if you're a participant. If you're a participant and you come into one of our sessions and you want to talk about your mum's alcoholism, we're going to stop you.
Right?
We're going to stop you and we're going to say to you, okay, Mary, let's not talk about your mum's alcoholism. Let's talk about this character's mum's alcoholism. That's it. So basically there is no sharing. So see, in a session, there is no sharing of personal details in the sense that nobody will know the difference between what's lived experience and what's fiction.
Right, but you're still sharing.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Aye. No,
so see if you're talking about that character's mum's alcoholism, the shift is done in such a way that nobody else in the room knows what bit is real and what bit is not real.
So, but it's taken from that. It's taken from a lived experience.
Well, doesn't everything come from there?
Aye. No,
you know,
I get that.
This is what I find interesting. So, for example, see if we go into a fellowship meeting, right? There's nothing anonymous about a fellowship meeting because you've got people coming in and sharing their testimonies, their lived experience testimonies. You know, there's nothing anonymous about that, which is the opposite of what we're about. Now, where does everything come from? So, see Coconut Badger, for example. See that novel? You could read that novel, right? And then me and you sit down, I'll take you through it page by page and I'll say, okay, that bit there completely made up. That bit there completely true. That bit there a mixture of made up and being true. What does it matter to you? You don't care. You either like the book or you don't like the book. What do you care whether something's completely made up or it's completely true? Do you care as a reader? So see the writer of something, do you care how much of it is lived experience and how much of it is...
No, you're engrossed in the story and the novel and whatever. I get that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand it, right?
The anonymity.
Aye. Because how do you then... Is that how you create the productions with the input from the person, you know, that's getting the therapy?
So I've developed a session plan. And our delivery teams, we've got at the moment on our roster, We have got somewhere in the region of 20 to 30 delivery team members, and they are trained on our session plan. And basically what they do is they go into each session with the session plan, and they deliver it in such a way that in an anonymous environment, these participants are developing characters, and they're developing monologues and sketches and spoken word. And as we move through the weeks, the page count starts to increase. And when we get to 12 to 16 weeks, participants are supported. If they want to, it's not compulsory. If they want to step on stage in a live event type environment in front of an audience and share their work, they can do so. But it's not everybody's cup of tea.
So even although there's a programme, they're writing it, the final outcome.
Right, so see, the content. Now this is another thing that makes our work unique. So if I was to describe our work as being like drama therapy for people who usually don't have any interest in drama therapy, right? With the anonymity protocols applied, basically what it means is that our delivery teams don't need to be drama professionals or therapy professionals. So some of our delivery teams are previous participants who've came back to deliver. And some of them are support staff. Some of them are volunteers. The session plan is constructed in such a way that it can be delivered. Drama therapy type work can be delivered by people who do not have a background in drama or therapy. And that's important to me. And one of the reasons it's important to me is because historically, drama therapy type work was always delivered by drama therapy type people, which meant that, you know, the number of people that you're reaching is smaller because...
So if you're, say I'm at a session right now, I'm coming to join your group, what happens on that first day? What are you saying?
So each session starts the same way, with the housekeeping.
Right, fire alarms and
no, the housekeeping of what the work is.
Right.
So, and the reason we do that is because not everybody joins week one. So for example, see if it's a 12-week programme, it's usually 4 hours a week. It's usually 2 2-hour sessions weekly. So you're looking at, that could be in the region of, and usually session number 24 is usually the live event, session number 25 is a debrief. So you're looking at in the region of pre-live event, you could be looking at kind of 24. You could be looking at 24 sessions. And what I say to host, clients, prisons, residential rehabs, etc., is see if somebody arrives in the last week, send them.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Right,
they don't need to join week one. So the delivery team start each session off by going through
what's been done till that point.
So basically just reminding everybody what we're about and why we're here.
Right.
So number one, we're not a drama group, right? So we're not looking for people who are interested in acting and writing. Our focus is therapeutic. Our focus is mental health and emotional well-being. Number two, we're working with 3 recurring characters. So every group works with 3 recurring characters.
So that's the setup, that's like the format
structure,
for it.
So the 3 recurring characters is number 1, the protagonist, the main character, who represents all of us. Number 2, a mentor figure, a constant source of positivity, love, compassion, reassurance, encouragement. Number 3, a critic type figure who is a constant source of negativity, disruption,
So you would explain that to the group, and then 3 people from the group would initially put themselves forward for that session that day.
Well, we'll have 10 people, we'll have 10 participants.
So how
in the region of 10 participants, and then 2 delivery team members who will kind of guide.
So how do you do that if there's only 3 types of people in the structure?
No, so this is where I bring my expertise as someone coming from, as a writer who develops characters and stories, etc., across various mediums. What I've done with this work is I've basically set the session plan up in such a way that these 3 recurring characters are different for every group. It's not the same.
So can more than one person play each character? Because there's 10 people there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how it works?
See, when it comes to these three, like what I'm saying is, I want our delivery teams to land week 12 on somewhere between 30 to 45 pages of monologue, sketches and spoken word. To get there,
So everybody's contributing to the three characters, right? I get
everybody's
it now.
contributing.
Right.
So we've got so basically these three characters are different for every group because it's different groups. So the structure's the same, but the actual monologue, sketches, spoken word is different for every group.
So those weeks, all that material is collected from the group at the end to then produce.
Now, who's creating the material? Who's creating the material? Because
the people, the participants.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting one because it varies depending on the group.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, and this is another area, controversial area. I'm all about trying to help as many people as possible. I'm all about trying to reach as many people as possible in the recovery space and the justice space. So one of the ways that I've done that is, if the delivery team is not from a drama background, like not a writer, etc., into our session plans, I have incorporated artificial intelligence, whereby our delivery teams, it's not compulsory, like if our delivery teams can work with that group and create 30 to 45 pages of content within a kind of 12 to 16 week period, that's fine. But if they need help with the page count, then what they do is they feed content into AI and ask AI to give us some monologues and sketches and spoken word, which they can either use or not use. So they can either take what AI gives us in terms of monologue, sketches and spoken word, and they can use it, or they can edit it, change it, basically bin half of it, use half of it, or they can bin the whole lot. It's totally up to them. But if you take, so Glasgow, for example, recently we did a recovery themed panto at the Autumn Moor in Glasgow, and that was one of our residential rehab and community rehab groups. Now, 75% of the script that was delivered came from a mixture of our delivery team and the participants, and probably 25% of it came from AI.
Sounds amazing. I'd love to do a session. I'd love to be involved in a session.
Because I don't give a fuck about, I mean, I'm not here looking for, like, so for example, see if your monologue's shit, I don't care. What I care about is keeping you alive, keeping you in recovery, and keeping you out of the justice system. That's what I care about. So it's interesting because despite the fact every session during the housekeeping we tell people, we're not a drama group, etc., people can't help themselves but become focused on these live events because there's going to be an audience there and they want to do the best. Obviously, it's understandable. They want to do the best that they can, and they want the work to be the best that it can be. But I keep telling people, nobody cares. Like, literally, you could get on stage and you could shit your pants. In the middle of the stage, shit your pants and have to run off, and the audience would love it, would love you. They would just do. Our audiences, remember, our audiences, if you look at who's in the audience, it's a mixture of support staff, VIPs, politicians, people with an interest in this area, but also friends and family. And this goes back to, my Jason experience. Frequently we have friends and family in our audience who are estranged from these participants. We had one guy who, so we usually have a wee Q&A, a wee kind of Q&A discussion after each rehearsed reading with the audience. And one of these Q&As, somebody up front, second row, said that they were, I can't remember his name, they were such and such's sister, and they were here with his mother. So it was the mother and sister, and they hadn't spoken to or seen him in something like 2 or 3 years. So that event, this is another thing, a lot of these participants, not all of them, but a lot of them have had problematic relationships with friends and family. And if you take Jason as an example, bringing a lot of shit to my door, bringing a lot of hassle, negativity, stress, etc. So to get the opportunity to invite your friends and family into an event that's full of love and compassion and positivity, and sharing the success of this journey, etc. We have family members who are reconciled with, with their participants. Often, it's a fairly frequent thing.
I would imagine it to be, because I would imagine people would be blown away by that, seeing that.
Anybody gets a chance. I mean, quite a lot of our events are open to the public. I mean, even if you don't have a family member involved in the production, see to just get the opportunity to go along and feel what's going on in that room. Anytime I go to one of these things, I always feel I get a real buzz. Buzz out of it, and it lasts me for days afterwards.
And what about, because I want to, we're at an hour, right, and I really want to speak to you about the whole spiritual thing with you. See, but just to finish on that, because it is so interesting. I love it. I love what you're doing. You talked about the impact of it. Do you have numbers? Or do you know?
Yeah. If we didn't have numbers, we've got
It wouldn't continue.
Well, we get funding from the Scottish Government. So if it wasn't for the Scottish Government funding that we get via the Cora Foundation, we would not be able to deliver. But the challenge that I've got, and this is what, so I moved out of the delivery team and I moved into the development of the work, and also as the board offered me the project director position, which I took a couple of years ago. Now, in order for me to do what I need to do, which is I want this group in, I want an anonymous drama group in every prison in the UK, and I want it in every residential rehab in the UK, and I want it in every local authority. Now, at the moment, we're only funded in 4 local authorities: Glasgow, Renfrewshire, Western Bartonshire and North Ayrshire. That's the only 4 local authorities that we are funded by the Scottish Government. So a big part of my job is trying to encourage the Scottish Government and other, significant grant funders to back us, to back the work. In order for me to do that, I need to be able to show them the numbers, which I can.
So you know that, how successful it is.
We know how successful it is, but we are not being backed. We have no core funding. As a small arts charity, we have no core funding. We only have project funding, which means that we don't get any funding for salaries, rent, infrastructure. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to convince the lottery, the Scottish Government, the Robertson Trust, all these big grant, big grant funders. I'm trying to convince them to back us, because in terms of the anonymous drama model in the recovery and justice space, like I say, to my knowledge, there is nowhere else doing it internationally, and the numbers demonstrate that it is working when it comes to having a positive impact on the mental health and emotional well-being of the participants.
That's brilliant. I think it's amazing.
Well, thank you for inviting me to speak on this, because see, when it comes to the promo stuff, like when it comes to getting the word out there, I would just encourage anybody listening to this to get onto the socials, CCC Scott on all the social media platforms, and just keep an eye on our content and share it as much as possible, because one of your viewers shares something and somebody is watching that who might be a potential participant. They might come to one of our groups.
I'll share the group anyway when this goes out. Is there an Instagram page? I know there's a TikTok page. That's how I know you've got an Instagram page, but that's how I found you, through the TikTok page. Is there a CCC Scotland Instagram page? Well, I'll tag that as well.
So CCC Scott on all social media platforms. And then for me, it's Mark McNichol.
I'll be tagging you anyway.
Yeah.
Right, so finally, just the final thing, because I was really interested in that whole story of the medium coming in and speaking to your mum and Angela. Did you believe that Angela was with you?
100%.
The whole time, throughout your whole life? You never explored it, but you knew she was there.
I knew she was there.
And you still know that?
I used to have dreams. She used to come to me in dreams.
Now that is a thing. I'm sure you've researched that.
Yeah. In fact, I'll give you another one. I remember going through this period when the decision being made round about, are we going to make Dreaded Light or are we not going to make Dreaded Light? There was a period where that decision was, that decision had to be made, and there was a few different factors, money and stuff like that coming into it, I remember walking home. I can't remember where I'd been at the shops or something, but I was walking home and I was listening to a podcast or listening to tunes or something, and my phone was in my pocket. And then later that night, I can't remember why, but on your iPhone you've got your notes, and I was kind of, I don't know why I went into my notes, and I noticed there was a note. I thought maybe the time stamp. I noticed the date and time jumped out at me as being a date and time when I was walking back from the shops or something, and that my phone was in my pocket, so it caught my attention because it was weird, because my phone was in my pocket, right? And I opened the note and I scrolled down. It was like I and I scrolled down a bit more. I love you, I love you, I love you. In my iPhone, when it was in my pocket. Shit like that happens all the time. Because, I think because of my mum's experience when I was a teenager and me believing it, I was always kind of open to it. And then when I made the decision that I was making Dreaded Light, I started to just get readings, as many as possible. I think I must have got about 30 readings done or something.
And the space, how long? 6 months?
Longer. I think it would have been maybe about a year or 18 months going through this process of not just readings, but I went to spiritualist, because this is another thing I was clueless about. I didn't know that spiritualism was a religion. So I went.
There's a spiritualist church in Glasgow.
I went to it. In fact, see, the very first time that I went to that church in Glasgow, I was sitting in the congregation. They do their wee bit where it's like a kind of Christian service, and then afterwards they have a platform demonstration where the mediums, kind of pass messages on to people in the audience. And I was sitting there, my very first time I'd ever attended a service, and the medium, Jennifer Phillips, her name is, she was like this. She was pointing. She pointed over to where I was sitting. There was maybe 3 or 4 of us, and she's like, "Which one of you is the writer?" And I was like, put my hand up, and she's like, "Okay." She's like, "I don't know what it is or what it's about, but I'm getting the message. Hurry up. Hurry up." And I was like, wow. First time I went into a spiritualist church. And I was just, okay, that's a message. I need to hurry up with this, with this process and get it out there, which I did. Getting a lot of readings done, going to church services, finding out that the Spiritualist National Union as a religion has got about 320 churches in the UK, which is something I never knew. I tried to get them on board because this was a positive, this was not me taking the piss out of spiritualism. This was a serious story, a serious fictional feature film inspired by a true story, which I thought they might be able to use it in some way to actually promote the fact that the religion exists, because most people don't even know it exists. But they were not keen. In fact, at the time, the president, was his name David Upton or something, he watched, when the film was made, he watched it, and he was like, listen, I can't remember the exact words, but it was along the lines of, really enjoyed the film, but we've got a policy that we don't See, when it comes to media,
and commercial, I know that's right.
films, documentaries, because so many people have taken the piss out of us historically.
And again, massive stigma, but also increasingly people are turning to it. The number of conversations that I have, and I'm spiritual myself, I'm quite open about it. The number of conversations I have with people who have suffered either mental health or addiction or whatever, that have turned to spirituality is, there's hardly anybody that hasn't, to be honest.
Well, see, one of the things that I always, like when I was going through the research process, I was talking to everybody. I was asking everybody, like, what do you think about spiritualism? And what I was surprised by was the number of people who say it's a lot of shite, right, but have never had a reading done. You know? And I would say to them, I would be like, I mean, how can you say something's a lot of rubbish if you've done 0% research or looked into it or anything like that? And so, for example, there's this sense of, see, mediums, people who are not spiritualists, who I've spoken to, quite a lot of them think that they're all fraudsters. You know,
is that your phone ringing?
They're all fraudsters.
Do we need to get a move on?
They're all fraudsters who are basically taking the piss out of people.
I know, and people do think that. I know that.
But the analogy that I would use is, see, if you look at the Catholic Church, for example, if you look at paedophile priests, that doesn't make them all paedophiles. There's good priests out there, you know? Just because there's some paedophile priests doesn't mean all priests are paedophiles. And it's the same with mediums. Are there some people out there taking the piss? Yeah. But does that mean they're all taking the piss? No. And don't say it's a lot of shite without actually doing your research. Get a few readings done. Not just one, by the way. Get a few readings done. Go to some services. Open yourself up to the possibilities. And then, you know, when you've got some research under your belt,
then come back to me.
Then come back to me and tell me what you think.
It's been an amazing chat. There's your phone ringing again. Right, we're going to finish up because we're well over the hour. And I said that was all it would be. Thank you so much. We'll share the pages and I get as much information out as I can that would help and link to that. Thanks. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.